Mae Krier, an original Rosie the Riveter, was born in 1926 in North Dakota. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Mae, her sister, and a friend headed to Seattle, Washington, where Mae became a riveter for Boeing, making B-17s and B-29s for 92 cents an hour. She met Norm, her late husband, a sailor, on the dance floor in 1944. Norm was transferred to Pasco, Washington, and in April 1945 they married. She left Boeing to work for the Army engineers with Italian prisoners of war in Pasco at 83 cents an hour. Eventually, they settled in Pennsylvania, where they raised their two children and where Mae still resides today. Mae joined other Rosies to get the first National Rosie the Riveter Day in 2017 and the Congressional Gold Medal for Rosie in 2020. During the pandemic, through her Facebook page Honor Rosie, Mae, with the help of companies, groups, and individuals, made and mailed well over 6,000 red and white polka dot face masks. 5,000 masks went directly to her Honor Rosie followers. In 2022, her face mask and bandana were worn by Rosie the Rocketeer in the commander's seat of the Boeing Starliner, which traveled to the International Space Station and back. In April of 2024, Mae accepted the Congressional Gold Medal on behalf of all Rosies. It was a great honor to her. Mae continues to travel the world to promote Rosie the Riveter's legacy, and at 99 years, Mae still cuts her own grass. Now it's time to join Breaking Barriers with Mae Krier. Hello, Mae.
Hi, Deb. I'm here.
You're there. I'm here. Everything's good.
Good. I'm glad.
So today we're going to talk to two teachers, high school teachers, that Mae and I do Zooms with. Mae has been Zooming with classes to share Rosie's legacy with the younger generation. So we thought it would be nice to have two teachers on. We'll have them on one at a time to talk about how the students are responding to it. So our first guest is a teacher, Craig Blackman, who teaches U.S. history at Indian River High School in Chesapeake, Virginia. Craig was the National VFW Teacher of the Year in 2015 and Virginia History Teacher of the Year in 2023. So we would like to welcome Craig. Hey, Craig.
Hey.
Congrats on
Welcome,
Teacher of
Craig.
the Year.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate that. It's such an honor. Thank you so much.
Well, we're happy to have you. And so I want you and Mae to talk about how you first met.
Yes, let me start that conversation. So I attended a Freedom Foundation seminar on World War II at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. And what I try to do in the summertime is attend at least one institute or seminar so I can bone up on some content maybe I need more work on. I try to look for new methods to teach something. One of the greatest things is to have speakers come to your class, either virtually or in person, because I think that history has to be living. You have to have people who have actually been there, done that, experienced history, talk to the kids about their experiences. It's a whole new dimension. And so when I saw Mae, my mind just started clicking. I'm like, this would be a fantastic presentation for my kids because, they can't relate to this decade. But when I hear Mae speak, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, storytelling is just the name of the game. And so I just loved hearing her talk. And the same seminar actually recruited David Eisenhower to come to my class virtually and talk about War II also. So it's nice that you can go to a seminar like that. You can pick up resources. You can talk to speakers, learn methods and encourage teachers at the same time. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
Mae, tell us why this is so important to you to do these Zooms with high school students.
Well, it's so important that we leave our history behind. And I admire these people like you, Craig. You keep our legacy alive. And it's so important to us because, we're fading out. We're the end of World War II people. As I travel with them, especially the men, as I travel with them, like I said, we've reached the age where we won't be able to go out and tell our stories anymore. And I said, it's so important that you keep it alive. And what you're doing with the students, we just love what you're doing with the students. They don't realize what we have gone through, what we have done. They don't have no idea what the Great Depression or the Dust Bowl, things like that. They read it in the history book, but they've never lived it like we have. And that's like I said, we love when you bring up your students and they are interested. Some are really interested. I'm sure they want to ask questions. And it's amazing because it's nice for us that we're able to tell you these stories. Like now, I'm 99 years old now, and I can't do a lot of traveling around anymore like I did. But like I said, my knee's given out, but I still have my mouth, so I still hope to. And that helps along that way. We can reach students, people like you, Greg. The students don't realize how important a teacher is. I tell the young people, if you've got a problem or think about something, go to your teacher, talk to them about it. So many go to their parents, but they'll come to their teacher. And I think that's very important. You leave marks, your teachers leave marks on students, whether they know it or not. And I think that's so important.
Yeah.
And Craig, we've Zoomed with you a couple times, and are the pictures that we show, I've never asked you this before, are they important to the students to see all those pictures we put up?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Hearing her speak is a whole new level, but you also want to have some context. You want to get a feel for the time period. And so all those pictures are wonderful. It helps to enhance the story more than anything else.
And how do your students respond to this?
They are amazed. They love having her speak. And I wish I could track the data over the years, and ask them, 10 years from the time that they heard it the first time, how it still impacted them. I haven't tracked the data like that, but I can tell you from my initial reaction after we're done and it all shuts down, they're just amazed. They're really just amazed, and are so appreciative that, she takes the time to come on and speak like that. So, yeah, it's a fabulous.
What age or what year in school are most of your students, Greg?
So most of mine are juniors in high school. So they're 16, 17, which is a great year to have them because they're not seniors. And they're still impressionable, I think, to some extent, but they're not, the highest level yet. But they're mature enough to appreciate a lot of what you're saying. So I think it's a great age group for you to come and talk. And they teach U.S. history, at that grade level. So it's a good fit. It's a really good fit.
Well, and they're planting seeds. They don't have any idea yet, but they've got that desire to do something. That desire and the determination is what's going to make the difference in them. But if they have an idea of what they'd like to do, I think that's so wonderful because your teachers, you encourage them, or you lay the groundwork for them so they have some idea where they're going or what they want to be or do. I think that's so important.
Right.
I especially like to talk to young girls because in my day, if a child was born, they'd like the son because the son could work. What good was a girl? In our day, a girl was meant to be in the kitchen or cooking or what have you. They didn't have any dreams or like the boys. They always had a career for the boys, or especially people that had farms. They wanted sons, so somebody who could work the farm. So it's important that I speak to the young girls and make them realize that their field is wide open for women today, and I really encourage them to go out there and find what it is they like to do.
Yeah, and if I could just say, it's so important that we encourage people overall. We use our words to lift up. And when Mae talks to the girls in the class and says, you can do it, you can rise up, you can achieve your goals, there is power in what we say. I mean, there's an ancient Hebrew verse that talks about how life and death are in the tongue. And when she speaks those kinds of words of encouragement to these young girls, I think it adds a whole new level to that experience, because they can hear it, and she has the credibility because she's lived it, and been an advocate for women's rights. And, as a teacher, I want to have stories from a lot of different people, so that they can see heroes from different races, genders, and include everybody. And so when she just talks about, what she has done and encourages them, those words are so important to communicate to the kids. I mean, I just think that's incredible. And I think that Mae's life philosophy, I mean, she has given of herself for so many years. I mean, it's a great philosophy of life to give and to lift up people. I think it's healthy, and kids need to adopt that lifestyle and encourage each other, encourage other people in their community. I think that's just a healthy way to live. So, again, she's modeling this, and she's done it. It's just an incredible thing. And, personally, go ahead.
One of the things that I really honor and enjoy right now is how the young fathers are encouraging their daughters as well as their sons. That didn't used to be, but I've experienced so many young fathers that'll come to me which said, "Will you speak to my daughter?" And things like that. And I think that's wonderful, because they're treating our equality showing up there. And the fathers take just as much pride in what their daughters achieve as what their sons achieve now. And I think that's so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And, she reminds me of my mom, who passed away last year at the age of 100.
Wow.
And,
wow.
but there's these common characteristics about the greatest generation. And see, I can tell the kids these things, but when they see Mae on the screen, then they can really see the embodiment of all these things, like in her attitude about life. Mae has this appreciation for life and a sense of gratitude, which was a part of the greatest generation. Like my mom, she said when she was younger, she could be content making mud pies in her front yard. And she was, because they had an education of creativity, and they learned to appreciate simple things. But I just love the values of that generation, because it's about public service. It's about doing your duty. And if you ask them, are you heroes? They're saying, no, I just did my duty. I was just a good citizen. And I love that attitude. And I think our kids today need a lot of that. They need to understand there's joy in public service and helping your fellow man.
Yeah.
And I remember
when we grew up, Greg, it was a man's world. I mean, the women weren't valued like men were. And they didn't realize until World War II how capable American women were. They didn't know that there was nothing or anything that we couldn't do. Look at how we built everything under everything that our fighting men needed. And I said it just was so amazing, because up until that time, that women's value. That's why I think we fight so hard for equality. I mean, it isn't that we don't want to be superior. We want equal rights. We want the same pay for doing the same job. We didn't get that during World War II. I think they did in the shipyards, I'm not sure, but we didn't in the aircraft industry. And it's not fair if you're doing the same job. Why don't you get the same pay? So that's another thing that I fought for over the years. I think that's important. Another thing I think is so important, that you teachers don't get the same pay as a lawyer or these higher people that. Teachers, look what they do. Look what a teacher does to a child, and as the years go by. I always think how you plant those seeds. I always say that they never know how many times a person will come back to a teacher and said, "If it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't have done that." And I think that's so important. I think you're underpaid. Teachers are underpaid. I'm sure you're going to agree with that.
Thank you. I hear you on that one. 100%. Yeah.
Craig, you were about to say something.
Thinking about the greatest generation, I remember one time Mae said, quote, "We save the world." This is her understanding of what that generation did. They saved the world. I mean, that's incredible, right? I mean, what they produced, like 8,000 planes a month at the highest point. being the arsenal of democracy, but Americans came together. And I love what she said. We saved the world. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. And I just love the fact she can communicate that.
It was the world, Greg, when I was in Normandy, I've been there twice now. At the last time, all of the scenes, the big affairs, and all they showed and had the men talking, which they showed the ones that fought the battles. But everything they showed, there's not one mention of the women. They showed all these airplanes, all these 53,000 ships, all of these things that us women built that made that capable at each of those at the Normandy possible. They didn't not once mention the women, and boy, that got under my skin, because I thought the least they could do is give us a little credit. We weren't in the trenches, but had it not been for us, they wouldn't have had all that equipment. They wouldn't have the ships, they wouldn't have the uniforms, they wouldn't have the guns. And so, it's just fair that they mention what we did. And now you know why I fought hard for it.
Mm-hmm. Right, you have to balance that narrative. You have to, tell those stories and give people credit for what they did. That's just balanced history. So, I couldn't agree more. 100%.
Well, Craig, we're going to be with you next week.
I can't wait.
With you. Is there anything additionally you would like us to do? Or are you good with what we normally do?
No, I think the way you have done it in the past is great, because she tells her story, and then you have the Q&A, and I love when she personalizes the story and tells the individual students, the young ladies or whatever, this is what I did, and you can do it too. That personal approach, that connectivity, is just so important. And I just love that. And I think, we're in the age where technology is super important, and we know it's not going away. It's fantastic. But I could go to Chat GPT and learn about Rosie, right? It could spit out all the information to me, or I could listen to somebody who's lived that and done that. That's what I want, because she inspires me and inspires the kids. And that's what we need in the classroom, is those role models in the classroom, human being to human being, talking about their experiences. I think that's so essential, and we can't get away from that if at all possible. So, I'm just so blessed that she's a part of that.
Greg, one of the pictures I have of us in Valley Forge, you're right there, and a nice picture of you in Valley Forge. And that's so funny. The first time you invited me to do a Zoom, that tickled me, because I felt like I already know you.
Well, I loved talking to you at Valley Forge. That's a great program altogether, because they have a lot of different speakers, but it's first class instruction. Right. Yeah. And it just really helps to, add to your content knowledge. And so you can, teach these content areas with more sophistication, so it's really important.
It is. And you keep in touch. I've kept in touch with so many teachers that I've met at Valley Forge. Well, different places too, but especially Valley Forge. It's a shame that they still don't have that now, because maybe they have different things, but not the World War II, as far as I know. Deb's has more knowledge about Valley Forge than I do.
Yeah, there's been a change, and they don't do teachers programs on the campus anymore. They're done in golf courses or somewhere in Philly. So it's different. It's different now. Okay. But you had the best, I would say.
Oh, I did. I was a great seminar. We had a lot of fabulous people. So yeah, that was super. Really great.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of today. And we will see you next week.
I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Anytime, Greg.
Thank you.
It's good seeing you again. Good talking to you.
Great seeing you. Great seeing you.
Good.
Our next guest is Kate Corrado, and I think I butchered that, who is in the social science department at Woodgrove High School in Virginia. Welcome, Kate.
Hello, thank you.
How are
Kate,
you?
I owe you an apology, Kate. When we met in Washington, I just didn't have time to talk to you, and I was so sorry that we didn't get to talk a bit.
You were a little busy that night, just a little bit.
Yeah, the gold medals, that's a very busy time, for sure.
And it's so exciting and all. You just get numb after a while. You like it wasn't for my granddaughter leading me around.
I
was
got my
funny, but it
picture
was
and I got my hug, so I feel very lucky. And you said my name correctly, Deb. You've got it.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure. So, Kate, tell us how you first, how did you know about Mae? Because you met her at the Congressional Gold Medal, right? And we Zoomed
Yes.
with you ahead of time.
So
that was
I
your daughter with
completed.
you, right? That was your daughter with you, right? You had your daughter with you in Washington?
No,
No,
no, I have a
No,
son.
you didn't?
No,
no.
but Raya's mother introduced us and kind of cut me a string
Oh,
and wanted
okay.
to take a picture with you.
There you go.
Oh,
I
Put in
completed my
line whenever you
master's.
can.
Yeah, I completed
uh,
my master's degree during COVID online, and my master's thesis was on Rosie the Riveter. So I hunted down memoirs that women who were Rosies back in the 1940s wrote about their experience, and begged librarians to send them to me and transcribe them and put them on a website for teachers to use. And so I was aware of Mae's name for a couple of years. And then I kept Googling Rosie the Riveter every month or so to see what was new. And that's how I got in touch with Raya with the foundation. And Raya said, you should really reach out to Mae directly. And I said, I don't know about that. She's kind of a celebrity. And she said, well, you should write to her. I think she'll write back. So that's when I wrote Mae a letter of appreciation for everything she did to help save the world, and been acquaintances / friends ever since.
Excellent. Excellent. We've Zoomed with you. Is it twice now, right? That I've been doing this with you. So tell us how your students respond to hearing Mae.
Well, I think that goes back to something that I noticed a few years into teaching, which is that young ladies really don't see themselves in the story of World War II. I think it's getting better. But my first couple of years teaching, when I got to the World War II unit, I noticed that the young men's test scores would go up and the young ladies' test scores would go down. It was almost like they would just zoom out because they weren't a part of it. It was for boys. I hear that a lot about Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan, like, oh, that's for guys. And so that's when it really became my mission to try and include a lot more women in my curriculum anywhere I could. And getting to talk to one directly is particularly important. I think students get a lot out of the Zoom calls because they understand that they are a part of the World War II story, that it belongs to everyone, because we could not have won without everyone. Men, women, older people, younger people, every single person was necessary. It's the only time that I can think of that everybody was united in one goal. And I also think they get so much out of the Zoom calls because they see so much of Mae in themselves, because Mae was about their age when she went to go work at Boeing. It becomes very relatable, especially when you talk about dresses and dancing, Mae. They really like that.
oh, that's the truth. We love
Marty.
Yeah.
the girls just don't realize the importance. They think it used to be it was a men's world, and that's taken a lot of changes now. That's an awful lot of changes. Young girls don't realize how capable they are. They're just as capable as the men. We just got to train them to make them realize that. I mean, because if they want to be an astronaut, why not? They can now. It's wide open for women. And that's why I keep telling them, don't think that you can't do it. I mean, if you don't try, you've got to try. And you've got to work hard. There's no substitute for working hard. Like I said, it was no wonder they think, because everything around World War II was around the men. I just told Greg that that angers me when they give the men all the credit and they don't realize that all that equipment they're fighting with was made by women. They don't give us credit at all. And every once in a while I get my dander up and I start speaking about it. You don't open their eyes till you start talking about it. And
Well,
then
I'll
they
tell you what,
realize that.
I was fortunate enough to travel to Normandy and Pearl Harbor and a number of teachers programs. I've been very blessed. But when I put up one of the photographs of D-Day to show them the scale of the blimps and the planes and the ships, I point to it and I say, I used to look at this photograph and I used to think, oh my goodness, look at what American men did. And I still feel that way. I had a number of family members that served in World War II, and I'm very passionate about military history. I said, but now I also look at this photograph and I say, wow, look at what American women built. And I said, it is so important that you understand that. It's so important that this story belongs to you too.
My friends who were welders on the battleship, the first ones to go in there to weld, the inspectors used to say, I can tell when a woman did this weld because it's neat. It's neater than what the men do. No, but they still didn't give the women the credit that they deserved. The men still fought the women being in there. So, they didn't think women were capable. They found out we were every bit as good or better than they were. And it isn't hard to be a riveter. It all depends on your location, but there's no reason that we can't be every bit as good or better than a man. And yet they paid the men more than they paid us. At the time, we didn't care. We were there to win the war. We were there just to make sure our men got the equipment they needed. It wasn't a matter of money or unions at that time. But now it is. I mean, it's just not fair that a woman doesn't have the same qualities, qualifications, or I should say the same. Why can't she get in the door like a boy? Years ago, if two of them were qualified, and the boy would always get the job because they would open the door for the boy. The girl probably didn't even stand a chance, even though she was more educated or more qualified. That's all changing now, and I'm so happy about that.
So, Kate, you had a few different things happen. Tell us about, you had a couple girls that got together to raise funds for Raya's World War II memorial to women who worked on the home front. That's so much to say.
Yeah, and I think they've recently consolidated it to the World War II Women's Memorial Foundation.
I think they did. You're right.
But I looked it up earlier today to make sure. But we were really, really fortunate because there were a number of young ladies that mentioned to Mae that they were a part of the Women in STEM group at my school, and then also the Woodgrove for Women group at our school who will raise money for women's shelters and that sort of thing. And Mae offered very generously to send bandanas and cards that were signed. And so we've been able to sell them online. We've raised just under $500
awesome.
Selling those things online. What I've noticed, Mae, I can tell when you do interviews, like right after March with Rosie the Riveter month, I was going to the post office all the time to drop those things off to mail. And I'll go to the post office until I turn blue in the face if it means that we get that monument built.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's not that big of a deal for us to do our part to help you out.
Wonderful.
And we want to see you at that monument. I also have a number of
that's like Ray. Ray doesn't want to say she wants it built before I'm gone out of this world, but you get close to that.
We also
Kate, I have to tell you, there's a lady like you. I'm so fascinated with you taking upon yourself to do this. Every little bit, everything we do for Ray's program is so important now, even if it's one bandana. A lady named Chris Locke from Massachusetts put 4 dozen of my bandanas, and she's going to distribute them, try to raise money for Ray's fund. And I think, it's people like you and Chris Locke that make these things possible. This is what Raya needs. And I had a woman come here the other day. She moved to Ohio, and she just came to give me a donation for Raya's fund because she hears me talk about it all the time.
Nice.
These are the things that are so important. Raya's got a tough road to hoe there, getting financing, all that financing, and everything is going to help. And it's people like you. You set such a good example. Now look at what it did. You enjoyed doing that, didn't you? Raising that money and the students.
Yeah, and because I keep in touch with them when they go off to college, I get to know the trends too. So they come back and tell me, and I say, what would a college student buy? So now we've worked out a design to sell essentially water bottle stickers or laptop stickers for the monument. I had one of my students who's very talented. I think he's going to work for Pixar someday, who
Wow.
drew up a Rosie, logo to try and sell online. So that's sort of my next venture heading into the summer. But keeping a tabs on what the high school and then turning into college students find interesting, and
Now
so
you
I've
told
got the ear of the young crowd.
you told us about a student who was too shy. Tell us
Yes.
that story.
So last school year, I had a exchange student from Italy. Her name was Francesca. She may end up listening to this. She's lovely.
Hi, Francesca.
And Francesca was very quiet throughout the whole Zoom and just kind of had her eyes on the screen. They are just such diligent students in certain parts of Europe. I mean, it's wild. And at the end of the Zoom, she started crying and she was very, very emotional. And she said, I wanted to ask her a question, but I know my English isn't the best, which is not true at all. Her English is fantastic. But she just said, I didn't know if I would be able to translate it well or if I would be able to think of something, but I just know that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her because my country wouldn't exist. And she was very emotional and she was very thankful. And you could just read it all over her face that she got it, that it was a light bulb moment. That she understood the level of sacrifice that was necessary from a variety of people. When I wrote to Mae the first time, I said, thank you for every cup of coffee you didn't drink, for every sugar packet that you didn't get to use. I can't imagine. I would be a monster without my coffee.
Well, I get the same reaction when I go to Belgium or Netherlands. Our friends, they're all so grateful for what we've done, and now they realize that the women's role in all of this was just not as important as the men's, but very important. And they honor me just right along with the veterans now. That didn't used to be that way, and it wasn't that way at all. Now they treat me like one of the veterans when I travel with them, and I think that's so important. And I was telling Deb a story today about a family they live out beyond Harrisburg. It's like a 2.5-hour ride. And they called and asked me, could they come visit their daughter? They had 2 daughters and a son, and they're pretty young. And we just sit and talk. They wanted to, I guess, they would help me, give the girls confidence in what they were doing. Now those girls have graduated from high school. One might even be in college. I've watched them for years grow up and what all the achievements, things they did in schools, and they're so proud of what they're doing. And I said to Deb, probably the next picture they'll get to be married, and but this is wonderful how that moves on. I just think it's so nice that how we instill something in a young child and what they do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kate, to wrap this up, I'll ask you the same thing. Like, how do you feel this has affected your students to listen to Mae?
So I would say that it just makes it so much more real for them to hear from someone who experienced it and saw it. I mean, when Mae tells the stories of VE Day, and it's just to know that she was there, it really changes it because it makes them feel like anything is possible. My student Ava wrote a very beautiful letter to Mae.
Yes.
Because she, after the Zoom and a couple more months went by, and she was accepted to Virginia Tech, and she actually chose that she's going to go study construction engineering at Virginia Tech because she feels like she can do anything after the We Can Do It spirit. And her father is actually a colleague of mine, a very well-respected teacher. And he did ask her, he said, that is definitely a male-dominated profession. And she said, I know, Dad, but I can do anything. I met a Rosie the Riveter. And so, I mean, I just think that really speaks to what what you're doing and the message and the power that it has.
Well, Kate, what I love too is I've got young girls that are going into it. One in particular that I've had so much fun with. She's a welder now, and she makes catalytic converters. But her grandfather tells me she's very creative with that welding tool. And it makes me so proud to see these girls to realize that they don't have to stick to the traditional thing. If there's something else I think they like, I got a granddaughter who can do anything. She's out there cutting down trees right now. I tell her it's amazing what she can do. She can plumb, she can do everything, and she's got a very good education, very smart. But this is what she likes. And I kid her. I said, her John Deere tractor is bigger than mine. That's not fair.
And you've already been cutting your grass this year, haven't you?
Yeah, I did once already. Yeah. And the needs again, starting to need it again. Oh, the rain. I don't know where. Did you get the rain, Kate, this week?
Mm-hmm.
We just had. Mm-hmm. Oh God, they mentioned 2 inches just today, and I don't know whether it's just within an hour or what, but we've had it the last 2 days. Mm-hmm. And probably when summer comes and we need it, we won't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to teachers, Kate, I just think it's outstanding what you. I've said this over and over, the seed you plant in these young people. I hear so many people, my children are teachers, or they're retired now. But they get students coming back to them for years, telling them, if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done that. And I just think it's outstanding what your teachers do. And like I told Greg, you're underpaid. You're underpaid.
Oh, thank you.
Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us, Kate. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing your class next year.
Of course. It's a real pleasure and an absolute honor. And thank you for everything that you did to make the world that I live in, Mae. I really appreciate it. And Deb, I can't thank you enough for
what you do. And Kate, it's wonderful what you do, what you're instilling, like that's what you're doing for Ray's program. This is like the kids take pride in what they do, and you're instilling that, and you're making them want to be the best or do the best they can. And I think that's wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You all have a great evening.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
So these were 2 teachers who really appreciate what we do for them, and that makes me feel great. And for anybody out there who wants to get in touch with us, our email address is honorrosie, 2 R's, 2020@gmail.com. It's honorrosie2020@gmail.com. So what do you think, Mae? I think we did good.
Oh, we did. And I just love talking to teachers. I like when they bring the students on too. And at different times we have their students on.
Yep.
And I think it's so much fun listening to them. And the kids will open up a little bit. They find it difficult to talk when they're on the video or on the screen, but the teachers bring out the best in them, and I just think that's wonderful.
I know you love teachers because you raised 2 of them, right?
That's right. And they've been retired a long time.
That's right. You raised 2 of them.
They both have masters in education, and both. I think it's wonderful. Like I said, they still get people coming back to them and say, "Love." They don't even remember some of them anymore because they're starting to turn into old people themselves. And so they don't remember a lot of them. They teach like 100 a year, so it's difficult to remember everybody. Mm-hmm. But there's always a story there.
Well, I'd say that's a wrap. It's time for us to power up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Mae, power up. We can do it. Thanks, everybody. Be kind to one another.